Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Father said, I'm Patricia. I'm Eileen's sister. I'm number 7 in the lineup. Eileen's number 8. Nobody ever calls me Patricia. Half of you call me Patsy. The other half call me Patty. Except Eileen, she called me Pat, which I was never thrilled with because it reminded me of androgynous Pat from Saturday Night Live. You know, I tell you, I'd give anything to hear her say, "Hey, Pat," with that little cock of her head just one more time. Before I get started, on behalf of the McCoy family, we have to thank a few groups of people. First of all, the hospital staff at St. Jude. Unbelievable, the nurses, the intensivists, which I found out are the doctors of ICU, and the administration. They made Eileen's last few weeks there not only comfortable, but she was able to leave us with dignity. And not only that, especially last week when she was in ICU, they made our family feel comfortable, feel educated, updating us constantly on her prognosis, you know, giving us hope when it was, you know, credible to do so, and holding our hand when they realized that Eileen was going to be leaving us soon. I would like to thank Laura Chavez Ramos, who was not only a classmate and a dear friend of Eileen's, but she's also part of the administration at St. Jude, and she made it her business the last few days up on ICU to make sure that my mom and my siblings and I were fed, and we had the privacy that we needed to say goodbye to our sister. So thank you, Laura. Also, an unbelievable amount of gratitude to Dr. Marty Carr, who is Eileen's doctor for the last year. This man loved Eileen as if she were one of his own, and he did everything in his power to try and keep her with us. And when we lost Eileen, I think he felt the loss almost as deeply as we did. We cannot express our thanks enough to you, Dr. Carr, wherever you are. And finally, we would like to thank all of you. I'm looking out here right now. You don't have the view I have, obviously, but I'm blown away, my family is blown away by the obvious positive impact that my little sister had for the 49 years of her life, just by your presence here, and also by all the beautiful comments that I haven't even gone half through on Caring Bridge. It breaks my heart a little bit to know that Eileen never grasped this impact that she had on all of you. In fact, she'd probably walk in right now if she knew you're all here and go, "What are you, crazy? It's a beautiful day, get out of here." Anyway, she was definitely humble, and it wasn't false humility. That girl had no ego. But anyway, so thank you. You've probably read her biography on the back of the program. I'm not going to repeat it. I just want to add a little bit to it. When she was actually about 7 months before she was born, my parents bought a house on Laguna Road in Fullerton. It was the home that Eileen grew up in. She loved that home. When I was a year old, when Eileen was a year old, the rest of us were off at school until Nancy was born when Eileen was 4. So for 3 years, my mom had Eileen as her constant little companion, her little buddy, going everywhere. And that's significant because it created right off the bat this amazing bond between my mom and Eileen that stayed there through the day that we lost her. And also, if you were to read in her biography about her athleticism, you could see this at an early age. At our house in the back, we had this basketball hoop, and almost every weekend, my dad and my 3 older brothers would play 2-on-2. And eventually, you know, they wanted Eileen to play, and they only asked me to play because they had to even the team. Nobody ever threw me the ball. And I didn't play, right? But every time they threw Eileen the ball, you know, it was this little kid. She'd shoot it, she almost always delivered. And her ability as an athlete grew over the years. And as you read, every year at Rosary High School, she would win the award for Athlete of the Year for volleyball, basketball, and softball. What you may not know is that upon graduation, the administration of Rosary actually created an award just for Eileen, Best All-Around 4-Year Athlete, and they've given it out since, from what I understand. Yeah, so anyway, then you're also read that she graduated from Cal State Fullerton. I'm trying not to look at my notes. I'm gonna have to. She did graduate from Cal State Fullerton. However, before she went there, she moved to Tucson for a year where I was and attended the U of A and was on the dean's list. And she and I were roommates as adults, which I treasured that year very much for a couple reasons. First of all, it really allowed me to see that Eileen would give you the shirt off her back, no questions asked, no reminders later that she did this for you, truly altruistic. One night before we were going to drive back home for Christmas, we had just the one car that we shared. Finals were over and she was off celebrating with her friends. And I got a phone call about 11 o'clock that night, and she had run out of gas. And what happened was one of the girls that she was celebrating with lived on the other side of Tucson, which, believe it or not, is about 30 miles away. And usually took the bus, but the bus had stopped running at that point. And she didn't have money for a cab. So Eileen, who also didn't have any money left and barely enough gas, knew she would have just enough gas to get this poor girl home, and then she was going to try to figure it out after that. Sure enough, halfway back she ran out of gas and called me, and I was a little bit annoyed at having to go call a cab, get gas, and you fill up a gas can and go rescue her. And I gave her an earful of that annoyance on the way back to the apartment. And she felt horrible. I mean, she wasn't defensive or anything. All she knew is she didn't want to leave this girl stranded. And when I think about it, between the two of us, she was the altruistic one. I rescued her, but I had a lot of complaints attached to that rescue. Eileen rescued this girl with, no questions asked. The second reason I treasured living with Eileen is because, we grew up together. I was 2 when she was born. I've never known life without her. My mom treated us like twins, same rules, same bedtime. We shared many of the same friends. I was a senior at Rosary when she was a freshman, and my friends and I took her friends and her out almost all the time. So we really already knew each other well, but it was really nice to get to know each other as adults, going from being close sisters to close friends. And it allowed her to let me into that heart of hers. She learned to trust me and be vulnerable to me. And I got to see that compassionate heart. And it was that heart that I had my hand on when she took her last breath. And as devastated as I was to lose her, I was unbelievably honored that I got to be with this loving, compassionate woman to the end. And speaking of her compassion, she was a coach. She was an assistant coach at Servite, but also a head coach at St. Angela's for both boys and girls, various teams. And here was Eileen's philosophy. Everybody made the team. Nobody ever got cut, and everybody played. And a lot of the parents weren't happy about that, the win at all costs kind of thing. But Eileen's philosophy was, they're not going to get any better if I cut them. They're not going to get any better if they sit on the bench once I put them on the team. She knew that many of them probably wouldn't make high school teams, but she gave them a fighting chance while they were at St. Angela's. And guess what? They won tournament after tournament. They won semifinals, many times made the finals. So, Eileen knew something, that's for sure. Pardon me just for a moment. And as far as, I know what I was going to say. I was going to do an analogy, and I don't even know if it really works, but I love my mom, I love my siblings, I love my life, but what gets me up in the morning every day are my 7 children. They are my reason. They give me purpose and meaning in life. Eileen loved her mom and her siblings and her friends, but the people who got her up in the morning were you students. You were the ones, regardless of her physical state, that pulled herself out of bed each day and made her want to go to school, teach you, and make you become better human beings. And in reading these Caring Bridge comments, I think everyone I read was, you were hands down my favorite teacher, ever, from day one. And as much as an impact as she had on you, I need you students to realize the impact that you had on my sister. You were the one who gave her purpose. You were her children. And if you want to honor my sister at all, do what I know Eileen thought was most important in life as you go through your life. When you meet someone, when you get to know someone, see the face of God in them, okay? See the goodness in them. That's what Eileen would have wanted. And I know that's what she taught you. To kind of wrap things up here, first of all, I want to thank my brothers and sisters. I have no idea what I did to be born into this family, but I watched them, all of them, well, overall Eileen's life, but especially the last few weeks. The unconditional love that siblings don't necessarily always have for each other, my brothers and sisters have for Eileen. And I thank God that I was born into this family. And finally, my mama. Eileen couldn't have had a stronger mother with her, not just at the end, but all 49 years of her life. And the last few weeks of her life, but especially the last week, you know, we were all there to give my mom comfort and support, but it turned out that Mom was the one giving that to us. I remember, I think it was the day before we lost Eileen, standing there kind of stroking her hair and her cheeks and everything, and my mom was on the other side of the bed, apparently watching me, and I guess I must have had tears in my eyes, because all of a sudden my mom was right here, turning me, put her arms around me, and let me sob. My mom's heart was breaking, but she was more concerned about my broken heart. And when we were all there, all of us talking around Eileen, trying to just, you know, carrying on conversations with each other, but just trying to give her the knowledge, if she could hear us, that we were all there for her. Every now and then I'd look around for my mom, and a couple times she was over on a chair. She was sitting there with her eyes closed, her hands folded in her lap, and her lips were moving. She didn't know I was watching her, but she was praying. And praying to God, but I also know she was praying to my dad. And 2 days after we lost Eileen, and my mom was at her house, and she went by a picture, a framed picture of my father, and picked it up, and she said, "Please take care of our little girl." And Mom, Dad's doing just that. Right now, she is in those strong, loving, nurturing arms, and she's knowing peace and happiness that we can't even begin to imagine. So I hope that gives you some sort of solace when you have this broken heart of yours. And also know that all 10 of us love you to pieces. I shouldn't say that, to pieces. I didn't even write that one down. Again, thank you everyone for being here. God bless.